SE at the end of a word can have two different sounds. The most common sound is the unvoiced sound of S, which is the S sound. The unvoiced sound will be used about 3/4 of the time if the word is 5 letters or longer. All of these words will use the long E sound. So we have lease, geese. This C will have the soft sound of S because of the E. Cease, grease, crease. These words will use the long OO sound of oo. Goose, moose. All of these words will use the sound. Terse, verse, purse, curse, nurse. Although OR usually says or, after a W it says so this is worse. These words will use the short vowel sound. Else, sense, tense, dense, lapse, rinse. OU says ow most of the time, so this is mouse and spouse. OR usually says or, so this is horse. If there's an AL and then another consonant, the A may have the broad sound of ah, like in the word false. The other sound that SE can have at the end of a word is the voiced sound of Z. These words will use the long E sound. Tease, TH will use the th sound here. These, ease. CH says ch, cheese, please. These words will use the long U sound or the long OO sound of oo. Bruise, cruise, use. This A will schwa and sound like a short U. Accuse, this is ch, choose. These words will use other long vowel sounds. Remember that PH says f, so this is phase, raise, prose. TH will say th here, those. OI says oi, so this is noise and poise. AU says ah, so we have pause and cause. In this word, OW is going to have the ow sound. So we have browse, advise with a short A. Here you might notice the word who, where the O has the oo sound and the W is silent. So this is the related word whose. Here are some root words where we can add prefixes and suffixes and the root keeps the same sound. This is the word pose. It's a verb and the S has the Z sound. We can add these prefixes and we get expose, dispose, impose, and suppose. Note that this word purpose is unrelated. Here we have the verb use where S has the Z sound. This is different than the noun form of the word use. So here with the verb use, we can add prefixes. We have abuse, misuse, reuse, and overuse. Here's the verb close, like I am going to close the door. Compose, disclose, foreclose. Here is the word verse, which is a noun. We have reverse, converse, inverse, this U has its long sound, universe, and subversive. Note that at the end of a word, IVE usually has a short I sound. English words don't end in the letter V, so the E is just here to keep the V from being the last letter. Here is the word fuse, which again is a verb and has the Z sound. Infuse, diffuse, confuse, transfuse, transfusion. Most of the time, this suffix is pronounced shun. However, if the root word ends in a D or the sound of a Z, like in the word fuse, then it's pronounced jun. So you can hear that in words like transfusion, fusion, or if you take the root divide and turn it into division. Let's look at some similar words that can be pronounced two different ways with two different meanings. Here we have the word house with the unvoiced S sound. This word house is a noun. For example, I live in a red house. The verb form uses the Z sound. The meaning of house with the Z sound means to provide shelter. Here we have the word advice, where the C has the soft sound of S because of the E. This is a noun. For example, good advice. Here is a related word, advise, where we have an S instead of a C, and the S has the Z sound. For example, I advise you to save money. So what you'll notice is that often in these paired words, the noun form has the unvoiced S sound, and when we want to turn it into a verb, we change it to Z. Let's look at more examples. Here we have the word close with the S sound. When it's pronounced this way, it's an adjective or an adverb. For example, I live close to work. When we change it to the Z sound of the word close, it becomes a verb. For example, close the door. Here we have the word refuse with a short E sound and the unvoiced S sound. This is a noun that means trash. When we change it to refuse, where the S has the Z sound, it means that you won't do something. For example, I refuse to work late. Here we have the word excuse with the unvoiced S sound. It's a noun. For example, he had an excuse for being late to work. Excuse meaning a reason. When we change it to Z, it becomes excuse, and it's a verb. Please excuse me for being late. Here's the word loose with two O's and the unvoiced S sound. This is an adjective that means not securely attached. When you have one O and the Z sound, it's the word lose, which is a verb, which means to misplace. You must know the difference between these two words. These two are words that native speakers will commonly misspell. Let's look at some examples. The man refused to put his refuse in the trash can. That means the man said, I'm not going to put my trash in the trash can. So here, with the verb, we have the Z sound. And when we have the noun, it's the S sound. Listen again. The man refused to put his refuse in the trash can. I watched her closely. She forgot to close the door. Notice here, as an adverb, we have the S form. As a verb, it becomes Z. Listen again. I watched her closely. She forgot to close the door. He advised me to save more money in case I lost my job. That was good advice. So here with an S, we have the Z sound as a verb. As a noun, we have the C, which has the soft sound of S because of the E. Listen again. He advised me to save more money in case I lost my job. That was good advice. If he loses any more weight, his pants will be too loose. So here with one O and the voiced Z sound, we have the verb. Here with two O's and the unvoiced S sound, we have the word loose. Listen again. If he loses any more weight, his pants will be too loose. If you have any questions, please post them in the comments section. If you like this video, please subscribe and share it with others on X, Facebook, and WhatsApp.